you need to check this out. You need to read this book, More Equal Animals from Dan. And this is your answer. And I didn't go through with it because like I recorded it, I started to chop it up and I wanted to like try to get it out there and see if we get people to share it and get it in his eye. Right. And I stopped because for one, Dan fucked off and left Eden. So that kind of threw a wrench in that plan. And the other is that we just weren't ready. Like it just seemed pretty obvious that we didn't have this message, this compelling, it's like, yeah, here's a book, read it. Well, that's not a great way to catch somebody. Like that's asking them to do a lot of work to see what you see. So we need to make this like really more digestible and obvious and intuitive. It's intuitive once you go through the work of understanding it. But as pointed out in the book, More Equal Animals, rational ignorance is a thing. So we need to be able to be compelling enough to those who are rationally ignorant about doing the work of reading a whole fucking book. Like, right? Like it's obvious. Yeah, we need to get our shit together first before we reach out to these guys.
Welcome to Bywire Interviews. My name is Michael O'Sullivan, and we are back for a brand new series of hard-hitting, straight to the truth interviews. No BS, no client journalism, just honest chat about this and that. And today, I am very pleased and super excited to be joined by the Eden Chief Delegate and Helios Guardian, Chris Barnes. Chris, welcome to Bywire Interviews. How are you today?
Thank you, Michael, for having me. I'm well and nervous. I won't deny I've watched all of your interviews and you do get to the point and ask some tough questions. So I'm excited to see where this might go.
Well, you have nothing to be nervous about. You did challenge me to ask the questions that I wanted to ask. So I will go ahead and do that. So Chris, what is more important to you, money or power?
Well, that's a good one. Money is power. So if I'm forced to answer, I would have to say money.
So you think money is the most important thing than over power because money can buy power?
In the current landscape, the way the world runs today, yeah, the money printers are the ones in charge. I'm a big believer of the philosophical reasons behind what Bitcoin stood for as a means to break the fiat runaway printers that just create more money that then manifests into more power. Dan's book, More Equal Animals, points to the fact that money can basically win elections with the right marketing, which is predicated on having the right amount of money. And that again translates into power. So it's a vicious cycle all around the central banks and their grip on the means that we use to exchange.
So then sorry to interrupt. So then if Eden is, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Eden. So If Eden is lacking, Eden has money, so why doesn't it have power?
Well, because it doesn't have a lot of money, first of all. So the money in this, like money versus power, looking at the extreme, it's a lot of money versus a lot of power is how I kind of looked at that question. Eden does not have a lot of money. Eden has enough money to move itself forward. It was given a healthy, like I think at one point, based on the price of EOS, there was $1.2 million in the Eden Treasury. So that's a sizable amount of money for at the time was a very small community, 200 or 300 people at the time. Price of EOS has gone down. And since that treasury was predicated on EOS, or it was EOS, the value of that treasury has also then since gone down. But the power within the EOS network, which is the power that you're referring to, I assume, isn't like we can't buy our way to the top. Like if that was the case, we could, in fact, if we had enough EOS, if Eden members and the treasury had enough EOS, that in fact does manifest to power in terms of what delegated proof of stake is. So we would have the power to change who the top 21 were. And through that choosing of the top 21.
How could you use money to choose the top 21 block producers, which I assume that's what you're referring to?
Correct. Yeah. So power of the network, right? So we're talking power. I would assume that to be power of the EOS network as like the microcosm of the power that matters here. And it's because you vote for them. So the way EOS works as a delegated proof of stake chain is the stake can be delegated to validators or block producers of your choice. They might have an ethical view that you agree in, or they provide certain services or other just functions towards the network. And so you want to select the best ones that align with your values and vision as a token holder. So if Eden as a collective had enough tokens, then we would have power and we could choose BPs that aligned with what we saw as being the direction that we think EOS should go. but we don't have that type of power. So beyond that, the value that we have is sort of minuscule in delegated proof of stake, and therefore we don't have any implicit power. We have a voice, and there's no doubt that Eden has a collection of arguably the most influential people within the EOS ecosystem, going from even previous chief delegates. Aaron Cox, great example. He's a highly influential person in the EOS-IO ecosystem, and well-deservedly so. Yves LaRose, who's the executive director of the EOS Network Foundation, Eden member. Dan Larimer's an Eden member. Yourself, Eden member, right? Media. So there's a lot of big minds, I would say, in Eden. And so that could manifest into power, but it's more of an influence type of power. It's not explicit power. And that's what I would like to see Eden. I think a lot of us view Eden as a means to, it's a governance system to select leaders and representatives. Those leaders and representatives hopefully could have some influence. That's like a nice baby step. And we do have influence with our words, but we don't have teeth. So it depends how you view what power actually is.
So that's interesting, because you answered the question first by saying money is obviously can buy power. But then you had to refrain a little and say, well, you need more money than we have to buy power. So we can't actually buy power. So let me put the question to you again. What is more important, money or power?
Well, again, money, because if you had more of it, because power itself, it depends, right? The power to change the money. Okay. Yeah. I suppose if you had power, then you could redirect and create more money. You could inflate it. But I'm still going to go back to, I still think money in the end, the way the current structure of society is set up, and even how EOS is set up, we need the money to then have enough influence to then have power. But it's a chicken and egg. You could say, yeah, if you had more power, you would just change the account keys and push all the money you want into the Eden Treasury, but then you'd blow up the system. So if you went about it that way, you'd ruin it all, and your money and power become worthless because you've wrecked the network. So in this case, if you did it within the rules of the game, which are acquire EOS tokens equivalent to money, that can then manifest into tangible power.
So, okay. So then do you think EOS itself as a community could ever have any type of democracy? Given it does today have a successfully run plutocracy via DPOS, the more tokens you have, the more votes you have. So is there any way for EOS to have a democracy, a community-led democracy, and does it even need one?
There's a way. It's hard. So the idea of those in power likely want to keep it. So if we start to overlap, you mentioned a plutocracy, and it's a Pareto distribution of wealth, which we all are well aware of, and that's what happens, and that's what we see in EOS. So is it bad? Not necessarily. Depends what manifests from that power distribution. Can EOS itself have a different democratic system? Yes. That's why a lot of us are into Eden. Some of us are explicitly like Han Ryu right now. He's a chief delegate with myself, and his mission basically is to create an overlay of another democratic means on top of the current power system that we have with DPOS. So I don't think it's about replacing. Ideally, in a perfect world, there's no extremes. There's no truth in the extremes. It's all, it's all about the gradient and the gray. So we have a Pareto distribution of wealth. If we can just overlay on top of that another means to select, which could be a democratic process that Eden provides, and then the two are what combined manifest into the power distribution. So I think it's possible. You need buy-in. You need buy-in from those who are currently in power, willing to cede some of that power to allow this new means of overlay. That's challenging, but it seems possible. It seems certainly possible. The main contact point we're talking about EOS again, with the block producers is the ENF through Eve and that team. And he seems supportive of this idea. So it's just a matter, and I think his point, which I agree with, Eden needs to demonstrate that it has a right to have this type of influence. We need to kind of have our shit together, and we don't. We don't right now. And this is a struggle of a decentralized community without a centralized vision or culture, which I think is a big problem that we have right now with Eden. And we can talk about that and what I see as the issues that we need to try to overcome. But I think there's a chance, bottom line, to answer your question.
Okay, so given the ENF, the EOS Network Foundation, serves then at the pleasure of block producers or block validators, Eden then still serves at the pleasure of the ENF. You mentioned that Eve, the principal of the ENF, was broadly supportive of the overall mission of it. However, aren't these democratic abstractions really, well, they are just DPOS by any other name, right? That's just DPOS abstracted. So would you agree then that it is probably, well, you probably wouldn't agree that it's impossible for EOS to have any kind of a true community-led democracy. I just wondered then, how can we convince those with power to cede said power?
It has to be in their best interest. So part of the EOS, so we look at right now, those in power, it's all predicated on EOS, and EOS has a value, a dollar value, right? So those who own the token have dollars invested in that token. If there can be a compelling enough case and an argument to demonstrate that the value of this token will go up more if you allow the introduction of a new governance system to overlay with what you currently have versus if you didn't allow that. So you do it through building consensus. You do it by finding something we can all agree upon, which is we want the price of EOS to go up. And so I would put forward the idea that what can make EOS even more unique than any other blockchain out there is that we have more than just a distribution of Pareto wealth that decides who's in charge, but we have something even more compelling for the world at large. Most people on the planet who have a brain on their shoulders are recognizing there's a problem with leadership. There's an issue we have right now. There's a capture going on for those who have their eyes open, and it's not pretty. And where it could go is especially not pretty. So how do we solve that? Well, maybe we select leaders, different leaders. And then how do you do that? Well, you do it by a different means, because the method that we currently select leaders is captured. Dan's book has this pretty well laid out. There's all sorts of incumbent advantage, gerrymandering, politics that basically it's a two-party system in most cases. And so it's broken. Eden is a method by which you can select leaders and representatives that defeats that break in the system. And it's a new way to do it. That could be the one of the comeback story reasons why EOS rises to the top. So allow those in power should hopefully, I'm hoping, recognize there's value in this. There's a compelling narrative that people who have dismissed EOS as being a scam coin or whatever the FUD that they have implanted in their brain, and see that no, this is a community-driven initiative that are people who care. And it's not just about money for us. It's about something bigger. I got into EOS because of the philosophical nature of what Dan purported to believe in: securing life, liberty, property, justice for all. It's the reason I got into Bitcoin. In between Bitcoin, when I got into Bitcoin in 2013, I didn't get into any other altcoins. I didn't even get into Ethereum because I didn't like the pre-mine and it didn't philosophically mean enough to me. EOS seemed like something I could get behind philosophically. I think a lot of us are here for philosophical reasons. Yeah, sure, some people just want to get rich. That's fine. But a lot of us want more than that. And that can be part of the narrative that then actually leads to having the value of EOS go up. So that's what I think we need to get across. But we're not going to do that if we can't demonstrate that Eden as a community has the organization skills to deserve the merit. We need the merit to have this additional influence over the network. And I think that's, for me, the biggest piece we need to solve. We need to become more than just a worker proposal system. We need to demonstrate that there's actually value in the leaders who are being selected here, and we can do more for the network than what is being presented so far.
Okay, so I want to come back to the ENF and maybe some KPIs and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit about your term. First of all, so we can kind of arc into it. So obviously you're the first ever Eden Chief Delegate to achieve re-election. You've served in the first group and now you're serving in the third group. Congratulations, that's quite the honor. Do you think that Eden then will, on its current trajectory, stand the test of time, or will it simply filter out as yet another failed EOS experiment?
I hope that there's enough of us pushing in the same direction that we can have it stand the test of time. I guess it begs the question, what is it? And that's, I think, what we're wrestling with right now. So it's more than just a failed EOS experiment. This would risk being what some would view as a failed Dan experiment. And I think that's one of the bigger problems here is, and I don't mean that I'm not trying to sling heat at Dan. It's just, that's the view of what people have. Like I'm parroting what I hear, not what I think. And so a lot of what Eden's current issues are what are we? What are we trying to be? We had, when Eden started, it was formed under the guise of this was Dan's experiment. It was explicitly Dan's experiment. He was going to write the bylaws for the first year. He had that carved into what we all understood to be the rules of the peace treaty at the time, was that Dan had the unilateral authority to change the bylaws, which is the rules from which we will operate under. So, okay, fine. We all joined in that, recognizing it was his experiment, but it was worthwhile to participate in this game. And that was all predicated basically around the principles of his book, More Equal Animals, applied to the EOS community for EOS. Okay, that's great. But then Dan has since moved on. He's now doing Fractally. So he's abandoned Eden in a not so great way, might I add. He could have gone about this way differently and helped empower this community to do more. And that did not happen. And so we've been kind of stuck lingering with different individuals with different views as to what Eden can become without that, what we had assumed to be someone who's just going to take it and run with it. The idea of decentralization is like hard, right? You need to have, it's been proven time and time again. ENF via Eve recognizes yet again, centralization does allow you to get shit done. And the primary reason why that works is because you have a central vision and a central point to build culture around. And we no longer have that within Eden. We don't have a central vision because we're all just kind of floundering now. Well, what are we trying to become? Is this simply a manifestation of More Equal Animals and Dan's ideas? Is it a manifestation of a software or a governance as a service platform that we can then roll out and other communities can use this system? Is it something that's just strictly to empower and build value on EOS via a worker proposal system? Those are all valid answers, but we don't all agree on what the answer is. And because of that, that is the biggest risk that Eden faces as an organization, is we don't have a guiding light. And this idea of 1 + 1 = 3, that's mathematically wrong, but philosophically correct. And right now, we're not all pushing in the same direction. So we're not getting that sort of combined force to push in the same direction because we don't have the same direction. So can we survive? Back to your question. Yes, absolutely. Will it be a struggle? 100%. It's proving to be a struggle because even right now, those even current chief delegates, we don't all agree on what we should be doing. And so we need to try to align on something that's at least sort of in the same direction to maximize our potential, or we do risk falling apart. And the way we fall apart is to just simply running out of funds. Like this thing's all predicated about selecting leaders who receive funding to do shit. Well, if we don't attract more funding, we're going to run out of it. And how do we attract more funding? By doing shit of value now with the funding that we have. And because we don't have a central focal point, what we're doing now is not going to be impactful because it's too dispersed. So anyway, it's a tough haul. I don't know. It's challenging, but there's a chance anyway. I haven't given up.
Good. I'm glad you haven't given up. That's very important. So this is what I fail to understand. Eden at its core is a consensus mechanism, right? It's designed to find consensus. So why on earth can't Eden members find consensus using the consensus mechanisms as to what Eden's purpose is? Like, I don't understand why you can't just do that. So why can't you do that?
Because it does find consensus. It's so Eden this is where it gets confusing, right? So there's the Eden process, there's the Eden community. Really, we should break that apart. There's the process, political playoff process or facto democratic process is what Eden uses. Eden, the community uses to select leaders as representatives. Very true. The risk of that, and this can be captured, this is an attack vector against Eden, is you can have an infiltration of people who have a particular view on what they'd like to see or what they'd like to do. And through the election process where you randomize folks into groups, if you have enough of a certain party, you can basically have a distribution of people from that view who make their way to the top. It would require a lot of them, but it's possible. So even right now, the community, that's why I said we don't have a unifying vision. So yeah, we can achieve consensus, but it's limited because if the vision is so different, yeah, you can achieve consensus in your small little rooms and work your way to the top. But if you don't have enough of the people who believe that a certain vision, a certain direction is the right way to go, then you'll always end up in stalemates and deadlocks. So you need 2/3 + 1, a supermajority. Right now, in the current chief delegates, we have 4. There's a 2 versus 2, it seems like, in terms of what we should do with the Treasury and how we should pay for the bills. That's a deadlock. So yeah, the process bubbled up people who should be good consensus builders. I've actually argued that we're not solving for consensus builders necessarily. We've proven in the past, and I think recently we've solved for projects. And so this is a difference of what is Eden, again, goes back to what are we trying to do? Are we selecting for leaders and representatives, or are we selecting for people who have a good project and they're going to build their project that seems to be of value? Initially, this was a worker proposal system. We were selecting for people with projects. When I won the very, very first trial election a year ago, May, that was based on the project that John Heater was working on, EOSPowerUp.io. It wasn't because I was a good leader. No one knew who I was. I was a complete unknown at that time. And yet I won the first trial election with 64 participants, who were, a lot of them were EOS OGs, Eve, Luke, Dan, like name your EOS person who was important. I won in that. So why? It's because I was representing a good project in John's project. It wasn't because, and that ethos has manifested all the way through. John Williamson, I don't think he's a great consensus builder. Not to throw shade at the guy, that's fine. His project, however, was awesome. Violet Garden was a great project, so he deserved to be there. Right now, Luca, I don't think he's a great consensus builder. He's got a great project. He had a great idea. He barely got through his second round. If you watch the video, it was only down to the last minute where it was 3 versus 2. No one was moving forward. So consensus, the acquiring of consensus there wasn't moving too smoothly. And yet one person's like, hey, you know what? I don't want this to have a stalemate. So with a minute left, he changed his vote. So out of capitulation was consensus achieved. That's not necessarily the best way to achieve consensus. So are we selecting for consensus builders? No, not yet. And I think it goes right back to what are we trying to do? Are we selecting leaders, representatives, or are we selecting people to receive funds in a worker proposal system? They're not the same.
So if two parties are at deadlock, one party has to, or, both parties should really move and compromise should be found. So if the EOS governance layer, the idealistic version of Eden, can't be achieved, doesn't it make more sense then to just allow it to be this worker proposal system and at least allow it to break free of its inertia, at least allow it to flourish as a WPS, a worker proposal system? Because if not, and if we're going to be stagnated, then Eden is eventually, like you said, going to just run out of funds and then just cease to exist. So I wonder, shouldn't you compromise?
We are compromising. Like this is all of like, I'm only going to push so hard on this bucket idea and how to fund things. Right now, the compromise is the biggest question is how does Eden pay for the basic services that Eden provides to its members, which is a website portal and basically running elections. So it's just a basic, how do we pay for it? Because it used to be the Fractally team. They were paying for it, running it, and now they're not. So how are we going to do that? It's just that question. I mean, what we do after that, and that's the philosophical question. Hey, I'm not even trying to answer that question. I have a view. Absolutely. I won't deny I have a view, but it's not really the biggest contentious point now. It's more like just how do we pay for the basic stuff we have? And one answer, like Dan St. Joy he's a current chief delegate. His consideration is that we just drop it all and we just don't even have a front UI and that we just get rid of all and we do everything through blocks. We just do everything on the blockchain manually. That's an option. Sure, it's an option, but it's not a compelling option. Not if we want to grow the membership and attract more people. And that's one of our biggest selling features. And it's it costs a lot of money to build this UI that we currently have. That was $600,000 was spent from the network to pay Dan to build what we're currently using. To just shelve that and say, oh, we can't pay for it anymore, which we can because we have money in the Treasury, we could pay for it. But just to shelve it, that seems like a major risk in terms of the fundamental value proposition we're providing as an ecosystem, as a community. And that's this method through which we have this beautiful UI to use. So to your question, should we just let it go, this idea of governance and trying to have influence? It's not about letting it go. It's about what is possible. And at a minimum, we can still always be a worker proposal system. I don't think these are exclusion. It's not mutually exclusive ideas. That's the other thing. So it's not about just, ideally, yes, though, we should focus in on a vision of what we're trying to do. And that would allow us to do more. But I don't know. I'm not willing to give up quite yet on the idea that Eden can be more than a worker proposal system, because I haven't been convinced that it's a worthwhile thing to give up on. And primarily because we have other means of achieving funds within the network. When Eden first came out, there was no Pomelo, there was no ENF grants. Those are two very powerful, unique, and deliberate means to achieve funding as a project within EOS. So now that we have those, do we still need Eden to be a worker proposal system? No, we don't need it to be that anymore. We did at one point. We don't now. So if we don't need it to be that, what else could it be? And can that provide more value to the network than just a worker proposal system? I go back to my whole point here. Yes, because the EOS price can go up, I think, greater as part of the narrative being that we now have a new, truly unique democratic system that's overlaid with our delegated proof of stake that no other blockchain in the world has. No one else has this potential means to select power within the network that we have. That's a human way. It's not just captured by bots and mining machines. It's captured by real humans. And that should matter to real humans. This is a very much an emotional space, and people get emotionally tied to their chains for whatever reason. And so let's create another compelling emotional reason to want to be involved in EOS. To me, that's worthwhile to continue on this and not just make it a worker proposal system and give up on what else it could be. It also doesn't help the whole idea of why I got into this in the first place, which is the philosophical reason to select leaders differently. And let's demonstrate on EOS that there's a better way. So then other blockchain, oh shit, that's amazing. Look what those EOS guys did. And then we can create tools for high schools to select student body presidents, or homeowners association to select their leaders, or baseball associations to select theirs. Like, there's value in this process that we need to get out there. And we're not going to do that if we just are relegated to a worker proposal system. And that's the end of it. So to me, that's not why I'm here. And so that's why I'm going to keep pushing, because I think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Okay, so then in your almost idealistic world, what does Eden mean to you? What would you like to see it become? And then broadly, what are your goals and objectives, thinking pragmatically, for your second term?
So goals for my second term primarily are to create a new website that is an opportunity to create a more refined vision and brand of what Eden is. So we want to draw in more members. Eden members become EOS members. So bottom line, it's good for EOS. Like, that's part of this, right? If we want to add more members to Eden, they're becoming EOS users, and that's great. So it's good for the network. That's obviously, it's pretty intuitive. So that's what I'm trying to do. I want to create a website. I want to create a more compelling use case or value proposition for members. What do you get out of being a member? Why do I want to join this thing? What do I get out of that? That is not explicit. It's not clear. There's nobody to point someone to. Dan recently commented on a tweet from Mark Sellers, I think, a guy from Teller. And it was like, hey, it was basically, the question was, should we do a hackathon of, like, Vitalik, Dan was tagged, and a few others, on solving a new governance system. We need to do an on-chain transparent governance system. And Dan responded, and he said, hey, there's this Eden on EOS community, and they're doing just that, except he tagged the other Twitter account. That doesn't go anywhere. Like, so it's like, it's too bad we couldn't have a website to point someone to where they click on it, they go, and there's a compelling, awesome video teaser at the top of the page. It's like, blows your mind of, oh, this is amazing. Look what this community can do. Look what this system does. This is awesome. I should get involved. We don't have that. But imagine if we did have that. And then that is, to me, the biggest opportunity for just low-hanging fruit to create value for Eden, for EOS. And then we go from there. So that's what I want to do. That's my primary focus this time around. And I'm not a marketer. Like, this is not like, so I'm leveraging, you are the guy who's in the current circle lead of the media comms arm of Eden. So it's like, it's not that I'm going to solve this problem. I just recognize it as a problem that needs to be solved. And I'm a solution-oriented kind of guy. So let's just solve it. Let's have someone who knows how to make a website, who knows how to do compelling video, kind of crafting of narrative, and let's get that out there. Let's birth Eden to the world. I want to try to get on other really solid podcasts out there, and I need something to point to. We have nothing to point to. So it's like, I don't want to try to reach out to other influencers and point them to Eden, because I don't know where to point them. So that's what I want to try to do. What was the first part of your question?
I can't remember. It was one of the questions that just came off out of my head. So
okay. There was a first part. I don't remember what it was.
I think it was. I can't remember, but I've got plenty more questions. So don't worry. But it's interesting. So, are you going to then use this kind of process of creating the website to kind of like force out some basic kind of meaning of Eden, right? Because you have to have some kind of like order, you have to have some content, and you have to have some kind of persuasion stuff on the website. So is this kind of why you're focusing on that website? Because at least then we'll have that basic kind of premise of what Eden is and how you can get involved.
Trying to figure it out. Yep. So we had, and I'm using some of the folks in the Helios team, Gabriel Shaw and Waxa. We've already had our first brainstorming session. We had about 18 people show up, 18 Eden members, to brainstorm exactly this. What is Eden, and what can we be in the future? What is the narrative that we want to tell the world about what Eden and what this community is? And so that should feed into what this website comes. So again, it's not about me. It's about recognizing a problem, trying to solve it. So and we're using the Eden process, or trying to. If we have more members, the idea is we would have more people show up to this brainstorming session, break into smaller groups, discuss your ideas, select one person to present the idea, and bubble that up. And hopefully you can coalesce around an actual, like, oh yeah, okay, this is what we can try to focus on. And ideally it's broad enough that it captures everyone's view, but focused enough to converge on an actual thing we can point on, and let's just push in that direction. And it's a baby step like this. So yeah, that's the whole idea, is to then build that into the website, which then we present to the world as, why do you want to be here?
So I attended some of the Helios Twitter spaces and just generally the Eden conversations over the last few months. And so much of the conversation is focused on promoting Eden. If we could get this influencer to tweet it, we get Russell Brand to tweet it, then everything's sorted. But I just wondered, why is the community putting so much effort onto promoting something that is really deadlocked as to two different factions as to what Eden is, like you said earlier, WPS or EOS governance? So shouldn't really the priority be make that definition, then start growing the ecosystem? Because doing both at the same time is like you're advertising to potentially the wrong audience, or certainly you're advertising in a very ineffective way.
Well, it's even worse. You only get one chance to have a first impression. So if we finally do break through to Russell Brand or any of these larger influencers that seem like would be perfectly philosophically aligned with what we're trying to do, you only get one first impression with them and their community. And right now that first impression will suck. So we don't want to do it. So I totally agree. Yeah, we need to do that at some point, but it's the order of operations that people don't have in their head. And again, I'm solution oriented. I ran power plants. It's very much, you do this, then this, then this. And if you don't, you blow yourself up. So it's like, you have to be very deliberate about what the order that you do things are. Yes, it's great to have a goal. Absolutely, you need that. But you need to then recognize it's baby steps that you get there, and how do you pragmatically plan those steps? So the first thing we need to do is build the website. We need to build our public facing image. So then when we reach out to the influencers like Russell Brand or James Corbett or Jordan Peterson, you've got something to capture them. Like, it's actually worth the energy and the effort. So for me, I started to make a video. So I'm a big Russell Brand fan. I've got 2 of his books. I've been to one of his live shows. Like, I watch all his videos, and I truly believe, I was skeptical at first there when he had like the wolf and the 33 number and the whole, I was like, you like controlled opposition. But now watching his videos, I really feel like he is a genuine, like, he's consistent and he's saying things that are the truth. And so I love that. And he so often speaks about the need of a decentralized mechanism to have communities orient themselves and organize themselves and select leaders. And it's exactly what Eden is. It's exactly like the solution to the problem that he's presented is Eden. But we have no way to present that to him. So I recorded a video with me holding up his 2 books saying, hey, Russell, I'm a huge fan. You got to check out Eden on EOS. It's exactly the solution you're looking for. You need to check this out. You need to read this book, More Equal Animals, from Dan. And this is your answer. And I didn't go through with it because I recorded it. I started to chop it up, and I wanted to try to get it out there and see if we get people to share it and get it in his eye. Right. And I stopped because for one, Dan fucked off and left Eden. So that kind of threw a wrench in that plan. And the other is that we just weren't ready. Like, it just seemed pretty obvious that we didn't have this message, this compelling, it's like, yeah, here's a book, read it. Well, that's not a great way to catch somebody. Like, that's asking them to do a lot of work to see what you see. So we need to make this really more digestible and obvious and intuitive. It's intuitive once you go through the work of understanding it. But as pointed out in the book, More Equal Animals, rational ignorance is a thing. So we need to be able to be compelling enough to those who are rationally ignorant about doing the work of reading a whole fucking book. Right? Like, it's obvious. Yeah, we need to get our shit together first before we reach out to these guys.